Hello everyone, this is Lori from Grammy's Keepsakes, and thank you for joining me for part 3 of our making our little journal album folder. Today we're going to finish it up. I've been playing a little bit with our little journal that's going to go in, but before we get to that, let's put some photo mats on our page. Now I did measure and cut 2 here, and they are 3 7/8 tall by 4 5/8 wide. And I thought that those measurements looked best with the red border. And I did glue one in already. So let's go ahead and glue this one in. And this is just 65-pound cardstock. You can use it for a photo mat to put your photos on it, or you can use a gel pen and journal on it, or you can put on a scrap of paper, coffee dyed paper, lined paper, ledger paper, or whatever to do your journaling. But I thought that the black cardstock complemented this. And it gives you a place to put a Christmas or holiday memory at that particular moment. Okay, let's pull out our tags and let's put some ribbons on here. Well, maybe. I found some black grosgrain ribbon and some red and white baker's twine. So I thought that would look nice. And I'm just going to go ahead and thread it through that eyelet. And you can use any kind of cord or ribbon that you'd like. And I'm just going to go ahead and snip some off. It's a little long. We're going to trim it later, but that makes it a little bit easier for me to work with. And I'm just going to take the baker's twine and wrap it around my ribbon. Not coordinated this morning. Goodness. The arthritis is kicking in. And just tie that tight. I think I'm going to tie it in a double knot because this grosgrain ribbon is pretty stiff. That'll hold it. And we'll tie it in a little bow. And I'm going to pull my strings to get my little bunny ears to be a smaller size. And trim that off. And let's go ahead and trim this too. And I'm going to put a little downward arrow into it, and how I do that is I fold them in half grab some really sharp scissors and just go ahead and angle the bottom of the V on the fold. And we have one ready. Let's go ahead and do our second. This just adds that little extra touch. The attention to detail. Got burlap strings all around. I've been playing with some burlap, and it likes to fray. Okay, let's tie that in a little bow. Get them relatively the same or similar. Get that out of our way. And we're going to trim off our little ribbons again and determine how long get them lined up. I do them both at the same time. And this one looks a little funky. It wasn't quite lined up, so that one gets a little bit of a do-over. Much better. Okay, now I'm going to take a little bit of art glitter glue and I'm going to daub on that knot. And then wipe off most of it. So it'll stay there just enough to keep that knot tied so that I don't accidentally untie it. Or when you're taking the tag in and out of the pocket. But it'll be there enough to lock it. So we can put our tags in and see they come over the edge of the book, and they look so cute when they do that, and they're, you know, off the side of the page. Okay, and then we've got our two mats, and then here I just cut out a little label to put here on the little pocket, and I made a couple of short tags. I just used a punch to get this end, and this is a scrap. So I just have a couple in there, so I'm not adding a lot of bulk. And that's all I've done to this. Now let's go to this side, And this is where I left off. We have that on, and I've got some tags ready for our pocket. But we can put a little photo mat here as well. And I've got a white pencil that I like to use on black. It's a pastel chalk by Generals. It's in the fine art department at the craft stores, art stores. And it erases off really nice. I think I'm going to cut it right there. Yeah, I like that. Okay, and we're going to make this narrower so it doesn't come down so close in our folder or pocket, but also pictures aren't this wide usually. Let's see what that measured, like 5 3/8. So just a little bit of cropping on a 4x6 and you've got it. Let's cut this down to about 4 inches. Yeah, that looks good. And then we're going to just take our corner rounder, round those little corners. And glue it on. Trying to kind of line it up with this one. And then we can put our little tags back in our pocket. And you can make smaller tags. They don't have to be this big. And you can put a little label there if you'd like. And I've got a couple of cardinals that I fussy cut out. They came in the paper pad, and I did black ink around them already. And I think I'm just going to glue these on for a little decoration. So they just kind of pop a little bit on that black holly paper. So for this journal, our 6 pieces of scrapbook paper now became 7 because with the elastic, I like to have a harder paper than if I was just going to use, I intentionally was just going to use coffee dyed paper for the center that we were going to stitch in, but I went with the elastic, and so with that I like a little bit of a sturdier cover. And so I took another coordinating piece of scrapbook paper and I measured between the eyelets, the top eyelet and the bottom eyelet, where it comes out of the folder, out of the hole, that is 8.5 inches. And so I measured this to be just shy, about a 1/16 of an inch, less than 8.5. So it's not going to bind on the edges. And so with trimming this to fit, I had to trim my pages. So instead of 8.5, these are now 8.25 by the 5.5. Well, no, 5 3/8. And I scored it down the middle, folded it, and then I trimmed it so that I've got a little bit of extra on the top, bottom, and sides. So my cover is bigger than my journal. And then I put washi tape down the center to help us reinforce, because we're going to stitch through this. And I did use glue stick first and then stuck this down. And this is the same washi that I used on this spine, and so we have a coordinating there. And then this little label, I just thought it needed a little something on it. And I was playing around with the different cutouts that I had and layering up papers, but I really didn't like them. I wanted something that you could designate what year it is or what event or who, or so I have a little die cut, and it's so bright with that. It's cream colored cardstock, but it's so bright and it looks so stark. So what I did was edge it with black distressing, and then I took the makeup brush and I did vintage photo all over it, and then I came in with black soot here and there all over it, so it really grayed it down so that it blends better and isn't so stark. So this is going to be my little label. We'll put that on after we sew in our journal pages. So we can move this aside. And I have just some coffee dyed paper. Some of them are lacy. And a graph. 4, 5, 6, 7 pages. I don't want it to be too thick, because if you add anything to the journal, it's going to add some more thickness. So go ahead and let's clip that in. Right down into our center. I'm going to use an awl. And let's find our center. Approximately here. So I'm just going to make a mark at the 0. And I want it to come down about an inch from the pages. So I'm going to make a mark there and an inch on this side. So we make a mark. So now I can use those marks and punch all the way through on the fold. And I fold it in half so that I get my pierce right in the center. Okay, now we need some wax cording or whatever you like to use. I'm going to use black and measure out about 2.5 or so. Because it's going in an elastic, I don't want the strings on the bottom to hang off and get tangled up. So we're going to cut those off. But I need my needle. So grab that. And go ahead and start from the inside in the center and come up to, okay. Do you see how with the white core of the cardstock, when we pierce the holes going outside, we have that white? What I do to fix that or to help dull it down is grab my Distress ink and hit it. And it's easier to do before do all the stitching. Okay, now we're going to go down that hole. And this one. And then into the center. I hold on to my string. Whoa, getting stuck. And I want one on each side. Pull it taut. Check my strings. Don't pull it too tight. We just have paper and cardstock here. And then I want to cut off my extra. And this is a wax cording, so I like to push it down on itself. And it can be trimmed even more. We don't need our clips. And in case I got any more of that white, I'm going to hit it with the Distress ink one more time. So it's nice and tight. A little tip to help your pages open and not get stuck together is by flipping through one page at a time, and just giving them a crease. It also gives you the opportunity to double check your work in case you need to repair or fix anything. Okay, so here's the top of the front and my little label. And I think I want that kind of up. It's going to act like a book plate. I'm going to go ahead and use some Fabri-Tac to glue that on because that gives me the wiggle room in case I need to shove it over to one side or the other after I stick it on. I'm going to use this line as my center. It appears center. And it's not quite center, but it's close enough, and it's eye appealing. So I'm going to go with that to try to line up my prints so that they look straight. Okay, push it down. Get rid of that. Did I move it? No, we're good. Okay, let's grab our folder, and I'm going to use the elastic that is the longest, the outside one, as my anchor. And the nice thing about this is the little book is replaceable. And now with this, I can cut that off. I don't need it to be as long. I'm good with the tension. And if you wanted to put little pockets here, that would be great. Or instead of cutting off that cardstock to make your little journal, if you folded it up and you'd have a natural pocket, that would be fun. Keep in mind though, you're adding an extra layer into our journal, and we do want it to close flat. And so with this, with the coffee dyed paper, it's adding about 1/4 inch. And our spine is only 1/2 inch. And with all the flips, those are 1/4 inch too. So now we just have, our journal is that 1/2 inch all the way across. And I use that as my goal so that I don't have a book that goes like this. Then I would have to add a closure to close it down. And I think sometimes it detracts from the look. Sometimes it's great and fantastic, but that's not what I'm looking for with this one. So let's play with the front cover. I have some little tags, and I just cut journaling or a scrapbook paper to see what I liked. And I think I like the plaid. I love the plaid. And you can see it up here on their file. But I thought it needed something else. It was too harsh. And so I cut a piece of burlap. And I think that's what I want. It's subtle, but it's effective. Wants to fray one more, and I don't want it to. So I think that just softens it up enough that I think that's what I like. So I'm going to go with it. Let's glue this onto the burlap first. And you could stitch it onto the burlap if you'd like. If you're going to stitch it, I would glue the center and then go ahead and stitch around it. But with this, I'm just going to go with the glue. So I'm making sure that I get relatively close to the edges. Not too much. I don't want it to come oozing out. And try to line it up in my center. I tried to put one thread to go all the way around it. That was my goal. I may or may not have got it, but close enough. Now we're going to go ahead and glue this on, and because it's that burlap, I'm going to use the Fabri-Tac again, and I can apply glue to the back of the label or that tag without worry of it coming through. But then I also want to put a little bit so that I don't get more fraying on my edges, but I need to be very careful because I don't want it to ooze through. But I wanted to lock those threads in place. So hopefully that did the trick. I love working with burlap. And I'm just kind of tilting it a little bit. I don't want it to be straight. And then very carefully on the outside, because I put glue on 6 points, I don't want it to ooze through there, but here I'm safe. And this will hold it. So now I have my little cover. It has a title with another title, doesn't it? And we have our spine. Here's our back. And we open it up. We have our little photo mat tags or journaling tags in our pockets. And we use that wax paper trick so that they slide in and out easily. We've got our 2 photo mats here. And then we flip down and down again. And we have our little pocket here. The little label that you can jot something down. And this whole thing flips over, so we've got more room. And there's this magnet here, so this will stay up. And then we have our journal. And it's just a simple little one with some pretty paper. In our back, we have our 'Tis the Season, our little cardinal. This flips down, flips again. We have our little file folder pocket with our tags and another photo mat. I think I'd like to let's put a little label there. And do I have green? Yes. I think I want to use the green. I'm going to go with this little one again. And I printed this on 28-pound paper. Yep. Let's ink up the edge of it. It just adds that little bit of something that makes it look complete. And then we can go ahead and just glue it on. And kind of put it down in that corner. The obvious place, of course, would be to put it up here with the little file label, but we're not going there. And then just smoothing out the glue, burnishing it down. I think that, yeah, that adds quite a bit. So here we have our little book, a little folder. And I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and put both of these into my shop if anybody is interested in them. This one, I added a little label down here on the bottom so you can jot down the year or the family name or whatever or nothing. And then inside, there's no journal in this one. It's just what we have inside. And here we have another little label. And they have 2 tags inside this pocket. And it magnetizes closed. And over on this side, this flips down and flips down again. And I've got a couple of different tags in here. We have our photo mats. And I think what I'm going to do is let's make another tag. We've got some more scrap from our folder that we haven't used. So I'm going to go ahead and make another big tag for this. So I'm going to cut it down at 6 inches by 3. Let's corner around the bottom. Grab my tag. Cut my corners. And then we've got a big tag. And then I can find some more scraps of this paper for this one and add another tag too, I think. I hope that you're making one with me. They're a lot of fun, and they sure make nice gifts and come in handy for the holidays coming up. Thank you. Have a great day.